Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mature Minded Gamers Star Trek podcast. Today, we're bringing you Discovery Season 3, Episode 1, and I got Brad and Will with me. Let's get right to it. So, the very first scene, we see a man in a room with some interesting technology. I kind of thought it was like a holodeck kind of room. What'd you guys think of that? The way the bed and everything was just kind of building and changing and
Well, the way that they kind of alluded at the end of last season that we were going to the future anyway, I just kind of figured this was just how things were done in the future when I first started watching this episode.
Right.
yeah, I didn't really know what was going on. And then at the very end, he sets that case on the table, and you can see the Star Trek or Starfleet emblem.
I thought maybe they were scanning for the ship and they were going to try to blow it up or something. I thought it was the enemy.
Oh, when he's running the scans, yeah, I didn't really know what to think of that. It was kind of a unique scene to start with. I didn't, I was like, well, we're probably hopefully going to figure out what's going on here, because the next scene we get Burnham flying in, and well, actually before that we get a gentleman being chased by another gentleman who apparently has stolen his cargo, and they're shooting at each other, and he's chasing them, and then one guy who we're going to find out is named Book here shortly ends up detecting a wormhole coming in, and Burnham shoots through in her suit, and they actually collide. Boy, I mean, I didn't really see this coming because if this suit, I guess the suit's powerful, I suppose, because a collision with a starship would instantly kill anybody, but the suit must have saved her, I suppose. So then they go plummeting down into the planet. Burnham does a bunch of cool stuff and reboots the suit and puts a shield up and protects herself and lands. And even though she's a little hurt and the suit's completely wrecked, she survives. She hops out. First thing she does, scan for life forms. Try to hail the Discovery. Discovery doesn't respond, but the scan for life forms says it's abundant. I think is what it says. There's several life forms found. So she knows that Control has not wiped out humanity. The whole reason they, are here from the past in the first place is to get the data off of Discovery out of Control's reach. What are your guys' thoughts so far?
I mean, I'm hooked this far into the episode. I mean, it was like it literally picked up where the last episode left off, and we find out what happened to Burnham. At least, I mean, we're left wondering at this point in the episode what's going on with Discovery and whether or not it followed her out of the wormhole. But yeah, I mean, what do I think? I think it was a great start to this episode.
I thought it was pretty cool how she was able to reboot it like just in time. You know, how she came out of the dirt or whatever that was, the soot or whatever. How she kind of like was able to get the suit to go back through the wormhole and self-destruct just in time.
Was that mentioned something that she needed to do at the end of season 2?
Yeah, she was gonna send a message back through the wormhole to Spock to let Spock know that she got there okay. And then she was she was destroying the suit after that point.
Okay. I couldn't remember if they actually confirmed that or not.
Well, remember that was what Spock was waiting for, that signal?
Oh, that's right. That is right. I do remember that now. Yeah, I thought that whole scene was great. The suit was able to fly back up just in time. Her excitement, or she did a really good job of acting. Very excited when she scanned for life and found it. And then, she went from being super sad because she couldn't hail Discovery to being super excited because there was life anyways on the planet. So one other thing I noticed was she seemed, when she opened her little med kit, or her little travel kit, whatever you want to call it, she started reciting her badge number and her rank and everything like that. Do you guys think that meant anything? Was she confused?
No, I just think that she was. I mean, she knows she's alone, and she's kind of just. I mean, she literally said things like "stand up" and "walk," and you know what I mean. Like she was telling herself what to do, as if there was a disconnect between her mind and her facilities. You know what I mean? She just it was just a coping mechanism.
See, I think it was her Vulcan training and trying to disconnect from her emotions. So she was saying something logical. She was saying something, the numbers, and obviously she's also in a lot of pain. I mean, you could see it when she had a hard time standing. She had a hard time, willing herself to do whatever. I think not only the physical pain, and she was using her Vulcan coping skills and an analytical mind to push out the humanistic part of her to do what needed to be done, even though not only emotionally she was destroyed, physically she was destroyed, and she needed to make something happen, or all of it was for naught and she wasn't going to survive.
I like that point on the Vulcan side. I didn't even think about that. So she, like, as you guys said, she gets up, she starts heading towards the ship, the other ship that she collided with. Once she gets there, though, it cloaks and she suddenly gets attacked. And they kind of rumble around a little bit, but obviously they concede to each other. And she starts talking to this man, and she finds out that she's 100 light years away from the nearest wormhole, which allows him to know that this was something that she had done. They'd created this wormhole, and he also tells her that, very dangerous. And the Gorans destroyed 2 light years worth of space, messing with time travel technologies. What I assumed.
Subspace. They ruined two subspace.
Oh, it was a subspace. Okay. And so I thought that was interesting. And then she also finds out she's not on Heme. She's on Terrelysium.
Nope, you got that backwards. She's not on Terrelysium.
She's on Heen.
Oh, sorry. So, did he ever say how far away it was? I don't think he did he?
I don't think he acknowledged that Terrelysium was a thing.
Okay.
So, of course, in 1,000 years, that name could just be, who knows what Earth is called, in 1,000 years.
So the ship is once they go inside the ship, finally, it's very futuristic, and you can tell Burnham's kind of, oh my gosh, this is amazing. She's starting to play with a little bit of things, but Book doesn't seem to enjoy her messing around and quickly stops that. And we meet my favorite new character in the Trek universe, Grudge, the giant cat who's got a thyroid problem and apparently some attitude. We also find out that his ship has been damaged from the collision with Burnham, and he needs to go get some parts from the mercantile place, which he doesn't want to go. You can tell it's not something he's looking forward to. But she offers up an old tricorder to hopefully allow him to trade to get the dilithium he needed. We also learn about the Great Burn. So this was something that we questioned quite a bit before in the trailer, because nobody really knew what the Great Burn was, and I did not expect this. What did you guys think about the Great Burn?
Well, it's going to be the plot of this whole season. I mean, they're going to determine what caused the Great Burn. It had to have been something that triggered it, and it may be our way to get Discovery back either in the right timeline or to restore Starfleet. I think it's going to be the whole MacGuffin this whole season.
See, I think that, in the Abrams verse of Star Trek, we had some pretty big events happen, right? So we had some planets blowed up, you had Vulcan blowed up, you had Romulus blowed up, and when you think about,
well, hold on, I want to correct something there. The Romulus blown up was both in the Abrams universe and in the Prime.
Okay, well, in Prime and the Abrams verse, so we've had some pretty cataclysmic events. And you think about what could really top that in this show, and I think, man, that's actually pretty cool. The fall of the Federation, and you think about it, how resilient the Federation is, and all these stories. And it's like, oh, that's not believable. But man, if all of the Federation ships were to just be gone in the snap of a finger, and the dilithium just kind of like malfunctions or fades or whatever they called it, I think that's a really cool way to bring down the Federation with just one snap of the finger.
Well, I think not just the Federation, though. It's every ship, right? Really. We've seen a few that weren't powered, I think, by dilithium, but most of the Klingons, the Romulans, all of them used dilithium too.
The Romulans did not. The Romulan used a micro singularity in their warp engines.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
But the thing is, like, what we've seen so far, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, but the fact that even Book ships still use dilithium in some way, so it wasn't all dilithium.
Well,
we don't know exactly if it was just the Federation's dilithium, because that's all we heard about in this episode, was that it was just the Federation ships.
He also mentioned using trilithium and another substance to do slipstream. So it sounded like even dilithium wasn't the primary mode of transportation for most places, but seeing as so I don't know. I guess I read some into that, thinking that maybe the Federation were the only ones that were still using dilithium because it was a cleaner, fuel source, where, trilithium, we know from Generations and from other episodes of things, has, the ability to be a bioweapon and is fairly dangerous. And I can't remember there was a reason why Slipstream wasn't a big thing in Voyager, but I can't remember what that was about. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I read too much into that.
Well, we know dilithium isn't that clean either. I mean, think about we have warp speed limitations. So I mean,
Well,
what is warp speed limitation? Warp 6?
No. Okay, so that was in the Next Generation episode in season 2 or 3, and it had more to do with the warp field geometry than it had to do with actual use of dilithium. So Voyager's nacelles, the way that they kind of hiked up when they went into higher speed, was supposed to be a way for them to, reduce the wear on subspace when they did that. But I don't know. That's about all the nerdier I can get with that one.
Oh, I don't know, Brad. I think you get pretty nerdy.
Okay, so they end up going, and we find out about the Great Burn, and also Burnham learns that
Great burn, Burnham.
we also find out that the Federation is no more, which you can tell really upsets her, which obviously it should. And Book doesn't really know a lot of details, though. Just obviously that they lost a whole bunch of ships, or all their ships almost, and they tried to stay in power, but they just kind of disappeared. Is how he kind of puts it there. So no one really knows what's really happened, but he does say that there are a few ancient or people holding on to the old values, or so he calls them true believers.
The Marvel fans is what they are.
So they end up going to the space station. I was a little bit confused by this at first. On the second watch, I kind of picked it up. So he tells her to act normal, and they do the scan, and he's got something on his arm that must identify him as a courier. So they were not going to let Burnham in, and then some little robot thing comes over and is watching everything. And Book, basically says, "Show him the goods. Your boss is going to let us in once he sees this because it's valuable to someone." And so they end up letting him in, both of them in. And Book kind of stabs Burnham. Not kind of. Book stabs her right in the heart, man. Gets her trapped, trying to break into what she thought was the communications area, but it ends up being the vault. And steals her little ancient tech stuff she's got, and leaves her. So she gets greeted by an Orion and Andorian, who seem to be controlling the whole station. Oh yeah, I also wanted to mention that. Why would a space station be floating above a city like that? Did that not strike any bells as kind of weird?
No, not after Abrams.
Okay.
I mean, they kind of had that in the last 2 of his movies. He had something goofy and artificially futuristic.
That's 1,000 years from the Star Trek that we knew.
I suppose it just seemed weird. But anyways, they seem to be in control of it and controlling the couriers, and so they shoot her with some kind of powder or something in the, I don't know, some little robot shoots some powder at her face or gas or whatever it was, and it's like a truth serum. She basically just starts doing, and she did a great job acting this out. She starts, sharing all of her emotions that have happened so far through this whole episode and everything that's been going on. And Book, meanwhile, is trying to trade, and whoever he's trying to trade with, though, doesn't want any part of it. And he ends up having the guy who was chasing him from the very beginning walk up on him and, tells him to follow him. He's got a gun to his back, and they start to go off. But at this point, Burnham has told these people in charge enough, and they have tracked them down. So we get a confrontation with all of them, and Burnham seems out of it, but she kind of signaled to Book that, now's the time, and they end up breaking loose and stealing some guns, and they get a whole shootout war going. We've seen some cool new technology, and they end up doing like a self-transport out, but they seem to be able to track them. And so we get a fight in a few different scenes as they're transporting every 30 seconds, I think is what he says, here and there, until they finally lose them by jumping into some water somehow. And then they get back to the ship. So a lot just happened. What are your guys' thoughts so far on all this?
Oh my gosh, you went over so much that I want to start back with the city. So I almost felt like it was an eBay, and the couriers were the UPS drivers delivering goods across the galaxy. Did you guys kind of pick up on that as well?
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, I guess so. It kind of reminded me of some of the cities that we had in like Serenity or Firefly. Like anywhere that they went was kind of a hub of stuff like that. I mean,
Underground.
yeah, kind of. I mean, it was chaotic, sort of lawless, but still had order. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever that. Oh, I'm also that town in Mandalorian that the guild was in. Kind of made me think of that town a bit.
Sure. Just more of the sci-fi version of all of those.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, because this had like a lot of like signage and simulations and holograms and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. Kind of made me think of like a CD looking advertisement area. And that's why I think like eBay. I don't know why. Just brings that to my mind. And what was the deal with the Orions and the Andorians? She's surprised that they didn't get along or that they were working together. Do they have like a major amount of like beef with each other or something?
That's beyond my knowledge.
Do you know anything about that, Eric?
I couldn't recall it personally, so I wasn't sure about that either.
Okay. Well, that maybe is something that some of our listeners could maybe chime in on. We'd love to get some background lore on that one if we could.
Okay, so when they finally get safe for a second, we see that Book has a special power. He kind of does this little prayer thing and grows a plant out of the ground, and it's got some kind of healing properties or something. He puts it on Burnham's wound, and it heals it up, and then he wraps it up. So he can basically interact with plants, is what we know right now, which is kind of cool. And she even asks, "Is it like a prayer?" And he says, "Yeah, kind of." Go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, it's not just with plants. I mean, it kind of is. She calls it out later on in the episode as just being a connection to energies of certain types. So, because he's got that connection. Well, later on we'll find out with other things as well.
Right. So he, they're cool now. So he allows her to try to call Discovery using his, I think it was a ship, right? He was just pulling it up outside, I believe. And he says,
Like
this
he had
thing,
the communicator on him the whole time. She even
right?
mentions that.
Well, yeah, I didn't know if it was actually like a personal communicator, if it was just linked to a ship. I don't know if they really specified that, but yeah. So she tries, still no luck. They catch up, and the enemies finally do catch up, and we get a little standoff, and they capture him. He has to tell him the ship password, which is sticky, and they open it up, and then we see in the cargo hold is some kind of a creature. I don't think we've seen these before, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Trance worms is what we find out that they are. Basically imply that it's a delicacy that you want to eat fresh. And so they open it up, and so Book tells Burnham to close your eyes, and this monster proceeds to kill all the people that chase them down. So I assume making eye contact makes it aggravated, perhaps? I couldn't really tell what.
No, that's hence the term trance and trance worm. Like, you make eye contact with it, you're in a trance. That's how it was able to do its thing.
It didn't really seem to trance anybody else.
No, it just ate him.
Yeah, I was a little
Well,
confused.
it did. I mean, their eyes changed colors and they were frozen for a moment.
Huh. They seem to be firing on it, and then the one people just warped out. It didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Now that you say it, it makes sense, Brad. When I watched it, I didn't really understand it.
I still don't think that makes sense to me, though, because not only were they able to shoot upon it, but the other two were able to warp out.
Yeah, this seems a little weird. But okay, anyway, so it ends up eating Burnham, though. But again, Book uses a special praying power, or whatever you want to call it, and he calms it down, and it spits Burnham out, and she's okay. So all good there.
All named it Molly.
And we find out that Book is basically transporting this endangered animal. He's an animal lover, and with the Federation gone, there's nobody to enforce laws like this, apparently. He takes it upon himself, and apparently there's others like him, because you see them once they get this trance worm back to Sanctuary 4, and it's having fun with his friends in the water, and they're chatting it up, and there's, I don't know, like 4 of them, I think, that look to be like Book, so I assume there's at least 4 people like him that are doing this. So we all just watched the Calypso episode, short track from season 2, I believe, in between season 1 and 2. We've been speculating that this episode may play a part in the new Discovery because the ship is fast-forwarded into the future in Calypso, and obviously we're in the future now in Discovery season 3. And so we went back and rewatched it. It's definitely Discovery, and I was thinking this as we were watching the episode. Could this be one of Book's brothers? So he had a unique name. They called him Kraft. The book did say his family was bounty hunters and poachers, right? But he wasn't like them. So I didn't really necessarily think of Kraft as being a poacher, but at the same time, it could be possible, or it could be just something, they didn't really even plan for anything being connected. What'd you guys think of that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I every time we get around and like these parts right here, like I feel like I'm always the one to say like, look, don't try to draw a correlation when there isn't one, and I kind of feel like that in this too. I mean, I had hoped there would be, but after watching Calypso again, I don't know that there's as many connection points aside from them both being in the future. So I don't want to put too much stock in the fact that it could be any relation to Book or otherwise, but I mean, I'm not going to leave it out, but I would not hold my breath on that.
So did we find out what planet that Book and Burnham were going to drop off this worm thing?
He calls it Sanctuary 4.
Okay, that's all we learned, right?
Right, as far as I know.
Right, and then in the short track, we learned that planet was called.
The planet he was from, that was Alco 4.
Okay. The only reason I'm wondering is if you think about it, maybe there's simulations, or maybe that's the same planet. We don't know. And as Brad says, as far as like not too much to go on there, but it is, I agree with you, Eric. I think it's fun to kind of speculate and think about what's possible.
Well, exactly. And in the Calypso episode, she references that the crew's been going for over 1,000 years. So we're 930 years away. So technically we have a 70-year gap here that we could fill, pretty easily.
That's true. And what's crazy is that episode could be the last episode in this series.
Yeah, like they may have to abandon the ship, right? And then,
right.
And then Calypso plays perfect. So
4,000 years later, or 3,000 years later.
Right. Or yeah, after they deliver the worm to the sanctuary. I already talked about it briefly. Book talks about his family being killers and poachers, but he's the good guy, and he doesn't do that, so he feels like it's his place to help save these endangered species. We didn't really find out, so he definitely has a connection to the cat. And in one point where the bounty hunter or the other person has him captured, he says, I'm going to kill your cat and feed a whole planet or something like that. And Book is, you can tell, very pissed off, and he says, she's a queen, don't touch her. So he definitely something going on with him and the cat, like a more than just a normal pet relationship, I think. Did you guys get that impression?
I did, and I'm thinking it has something to do with maybe the cat is an endangered species and the last of its line, or something to that nature. And I'm thinking that maybe he has the last cat in existence. But we needed another cat in Star Trek. Last one we had was Spot, right?
I think you're right. I'd still rather see another beagle, but we can take a cat. The cat is cool. Don't get me wrong. Very, very nice looking cat. I felt like he was awkwardly holding it though in that first scene. Did you feel that way too? I mean,
yeah.
It's just weird holding a cat anyways most of the time, but I was like, yep, that's someone trying to hold a cat right there. All right, so they get the worm back, as I said. They go over all that old stuff, and Book says, I have some place to take you. We get them flying to an old Federation relay station that I think they come to the conclusion that the reactor blew up, right? Isn't that what they decide happened?
I mean, I think they suggested it.
Yeah, but it is still powered, because this is where we meet the guy from the very first scene, who we find out is a Starfleet liaison. And, he is, you can tell as soon as Burnham tells him who she is, he is more than thrilled. And we find out why. So his father and grandfather were in Starfleet, and he's been in the station for 40 years, not able to put the flag up and not able to get, actually into Starfleet officially, because there's no one there that can make it official that he's actually in Starfleet. So couple big questions here. He scans for Discovery, doesn't find it, but he says there are 2 Federation ships in his scan radius. So
the Enterprise.
Big, huge questions here. Why hasn't that ship came and made it official for him? So are these ships just like floating derelict?
I think they're Federation ships. I don't necessarily think they're Federation ships. Like, I still think maybe it's like let's say it was the Reliant or something crazy, right? So it was like a Federation ship, but it's no longer in the part of the Federation. Like, it may have the warp signature of a Federation ship, because maybe not all the dilithium reacted the same way. And call me crazy, but I 1000% believe we are going to see some version of the Enterprise in this part. as one of those two ships. That's my speculations. One of those two ships.
Which
is the
Enterprise?
Oh, I don't know.
Like a new one, like Enterprise Z at this point?
I have no idea. But I'm just saying, I think that would be pretty crazy to see another Enterprise, or maybe it's the Titan.
I was gonna make up a Titan joke. So she, says you're one of the most Starfleet people I know, and she ends up making him the
acting chief
communicator or communication officer, I think. So, Brad, what do you think about the starships? What are your ideas?
I guess I think that they're kind of in the same boat he is, where nobody's an actually commissioned Starfleet officer, that they are, they're being ran by the best they can possibly get, but aren't actually commissioned into Starfleet.
And without anybody kind of leading them, they're just kind of lone wolves.
Wouldn't you just make your own Starfleet council at that point, though?
Not if you're abiding by the rules of Starfleet, you wouldn't.
It seems weird to me. I'm really interested in what these ships are. So
yeah.
I can't wait to see. So he also mentions that the long range scanners are down, so he can only scan for
600 light years.
600 light years or 800, I think is what I wrote down, whatever it was. And so, there may be a lot more Starfleet going on or build up going on that we know of. So they left that kind of open. All right, that is all I have in my notes.
Talk about something that was very important. So there was the part where he says, "I've been waiting for you. Only a Starfleet officer can put this flag up." And that's when she makes him the acting chief of communications. And then they put the flag up together. They drop the flag, and I don't know why, but I got teary-eyed at that point. I for whatever reason, I always equate crazy, but I always equate the Federation to like the U.S. flag. I don't know why, but I do. And when I see that flag and somebody honoring it and standing in front of it, it just got me right in the heartstrings. And I thought that was a really powerful scene. That the best of the best of Federation. It's a belief system. It's something that they're going to not give up on. That there are other people out there that believe in that. And I'm pretty excited that this scene here got me excited to watch the rest of this season. It's like the precursor. It makes me think, man, this was what the Discovery was born to do, to discover other people and bring the Federation back together.
That is a great poll, Will. I never thought about it like that. You're absolutely right. They're now, the name fits.
Right.
For sure.
And I'm with you, man. When they lowered that flag down, I was like, oh, yeah. Starfleet.
Was that the only one that got choked up?
I didn't get choked up, but it was a good scene.
I guess I'm crazy then.
All right, guys, let's rate this against all the other episodes of Discovery.
9.
Man. 8. 7 to an 8.
I'm going to go probably an 8 on this one. It was really good, but Discovery Season 2 was really good too. But this did not let down at all. Did not let me down at all. I think it hit everything I wanted to see. I was surprised that we didn't see Discovery. I kind of assumed from the trailers that we seen that they were going to come down close together. When do you guys think we're going to see Discovery in Season 3?
Next episode.
The very end of next episode, if not episode 3.
I think we're going to get... Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
I was going to agree with you, Will. I was going to say, I think it's going to be the very first scene in the next episode.
Well, I think the next episode is just going to be about Discovery. Episode 3 is going to be about how they find each other. Because I don't think that they're going to come out anytime soon. And I think it's going to be like 5 years later. Because Burnham has long hair in the clips. So, I mean, she doesn't have long hair. And all of a sudden she's got long hair. Something happened. Some time frame happened here.
That's right. In the trailer, they showed her waiting for it looked like a long period of time.
Right.
So I have a couple crazy, I'm going to throw out there accusations. But Brad, do you have anything before I go on?
Nope.
What if the Discovery actually is the Calypso and it comes out that far ahead and Burnham, we get like almost two different versions. We get Burnham back in the past and Discovery up like another, 800 years or 1,000 years or whatever.
And then explain the crew.
Well, the crew's still there. They're trying to do their own thing. Burnham's trying to do her own thing.
So we're not going to see them come together?
Yeah. What do you think about that? Think that's possible?
I don't know that I understand what you're describing.
They reference how the ship could come out either tomorrow or 1,000 years in the future because of how time travel works.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the ship's not going to come out until really far in the future.
Well, the crew is on the ship, though.
Well, right. None of that's going to change. This is going to be like Burnham's back in her own time area doing her thing, trying to reestablish Starfleet. And we're going to see the crew up in the future dealing with all new stuff and being able to see what Burnham's done in the past, maybe. Think that's possible? Too far out there.
No, I actually think that kind of follows what I was saying. I think it's going to be like 5 years later, where the Discovery's going to come out and Burnham's going to have done what she's trying to do to rediscover Federation people. Hence why the long hair.
I don't mean 5 years. I mean like Burnham's dead. Burnham has reestablished Starfleet at this point, and then we're going to see her doing that as part of the show, and the other part is Discovery dealing with whatever the new dilemma is in the future.
No, I don't see that, because there's some scenes that you see about her seeing Tilly again.
Oh yeah, you're right. There was. Well, that's why it was a crazy out there theory.
Yeah, good thinking. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. And then figure out a way to bring them together. I mean, shit, we've seen some crazy stuff going on in season 2 of Discovery I didn't expect.
Oh, that's true. And
That's
season
the
1
first-
even.
I was just about to say, even that last half of season 1 was nuts. For those of you who have not given Star Trek Discovery a shot, oh my, and they complain about it being, oh, that's, they can't rewrite history in Trek lore. Oh my God, you're missing out. This is great.
Well, and the thing was, that was the number one complaint, and then they wrapped it up so tightly and perfectly.
Oh yeah.
Like, man, they nailed it. All right, guys, any final thoughts on this episode?
Nah,
Fun watch.
Very fun. I can't wait for next week. All right, guys, thanks for checking out our podcast. You can check out all of our content on our website, maturemindedgamers.com. We do board games, video games, and much more. Have yourself a great evening.
Make it so.
Grudge.